Welcome to Shabbat with the Schmear here at Barney Greengrass. That's the Schmear. I'm here talking Torah with my good friend Rabbi Adam Mintz. I'm Shabbat mom, Meredith Berkman. Rabbi Mintz, what can you tell me about Behar?
At the beginning of Behar, we talk about the sabbatical year, the Shemitah. And on that year, Jews in Israel were not allowed to work the field. And anything that grew had to be left for the poor people. It was actually a very sophisticated form of charity. That's the way they gave charity without anybody asking for it. Quietly in the middle of the night or the middle of the day, the poor person could come and collect any food, anything, any fruit, any vegetable that grew that was theirs. They didn't have to ask permission.
Isn't that in the book of Ruth? Are we meant to believe it's a Shemitah year in the book of Ruth?
In the book of Ruth, it actually wasn't Shemitah. It was another law about leaving the corners of the field.
Which we read a few weeks ago.
Right, leaving the corners of the field. But it's the same idea. You know, we don't appreciate that world, the agricultural world, where basically everybody lived on a farm. If you lived in the city, you were second class. It means you weren't good enough to have a farm. You had to live in the city. So in those days, the people who were upper class, or we would call them upper middle class, they each had farms. And there was a system in the Torah where they were forced to leave certain things that grew for charity for poor people. And you can imagine, if your whole livelihood is based on what grows, it hurts sometimes to leave a portion of your field, or to say once every 7 years you cannot work the field, whatever goes to the poor person.
Well, it's also, it's a very powerful lesson about philanthropy and giving people who have less than you the dignity, not of having to beg for it, but to take it. Also because if things are growing, you're not tilling the field, it's just coming naturally through the grace of God, that's how the land, the bounty of the land doesn't come from, it's not within our control. But I know, really modern context, I was just sort of imagining in a Shemitah year, then the equivalent would be the Hamptons Jitney would be full of people from the Upper West Side going out to the Hamptons, to the last remaining fields out there, filling their suitcases and coming back. That's what you're saying, that the people in the city were the ones who were in need of sustenance. So interesting. I've also heard, and I believe you also have heard, the former Knesset member Ruth Calderon, who's a writer and a thinker, and talking about her this idea of, for the Shemitah year in Israel, people would take change, right? That the change in a grocery store, and you sometimes see that here, would go into a fund that people could then apply for. And I also love the idea of, startup nation, super cutting edge, modern Israel, literally looking to our eternal text, the magic book, as I always say to the kids, for the lessons of how to live their lives, but in a very specific way.
It really is. She did a great job when she described this idea of charity, of bringing the laws of the sabbatical year up to date to the 21st century.
Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.